was building homes for the poor in Tijuana, and we were not making a lot of money doing that. My contractor started pulling up the floorboards. He's like, this is really weird. There's 4 layers of floor here. I don't know what's going on. And he kept pulling it up. And he called me and he said, we have a problem. I just found a dead body underneath the floorboard.
And you're talking through the rates. I'm like,
you're consistently getting 5,000 to 8,000 on like a 3-bedroom unit. Yeah. Welcome back to the Roots Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Lingle, alongside my co-founder and co-host, Max Moore. We're here with Guy East, longtime friend and real estate aficionado. Guy grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana. He was a professional cyclist for 8 years before stepping into real estate in an unconventional way by building homes for families in Tijuana, Mexico. Over the course of 10 years, he helped build 250 homes for the poor, and that experience laid the foundation for his passion for housing and community development. In 2018, he and his wife launched a short-term rental management company that eventually expanded to managing nearly 50 properties across the United States and Mexico with the focus on insurance housing. Today, they've shifted their focus to Indiana, where they own and manage 30 workforce housing units, primarily through renovating distressed properties. Their business now includes motel conversions and small multifamily investments, all aimed at providing quality midterm housing solutions in Central Indiana. He and his wife work side by side, leading their small company, Mi Casa, Tu Casa, where their mission is to serve with excellence and hospitality. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on. And you've gone from pro cycling to building houses in Mexico to short-term or midterm rentals in Indy. When did you know that real estate was going to be the center of all of that? How did you stumble into real estate?
Well, yeah, so was building homes for the poor in Tijuana, and we were not making a lot of money doing that. We actually had to raise our own salaries in order to be down in Mexico doing that work. So we raised our own income for about 10 years, just through friends and churches and organizations. And I kind of got tired of doing that, and we owned a house in Mexico, and I turned it into an Airbnb. And it was a lot easier to make money renting out a house than it is to ask somebody for money. So I started doing that, and we grew that particular house into the best Airbnb in the area. It was the number 1 ranked Airbnb in Rosarito, border region, Tijuana area. And I said, this is what we're going to do. And so then we grew our passion and excitement for it. We did house hacking. We did a lot of things, but it was a really great way to get started, and really inspired me. And I was scrappy. I've always been scrappy and just trying to figure out how to make a dollar. And coming kind of from our background, I was really motivated to do that. And so it's really provided a pathway forward for us. And we've really loved it from a lot of different perspectives, from the income, but also just providing exceptional experiences for people traveling to new areas. And now it looks a lot different than it did back then, but it's been fun. But I would say being involved at a very different level in Mexico and serving the poor, building houses, gave me a very unique perspective on real estate in general, and just what I wanted to do and how I want to shape my life and our family's life. And we were meeting people's needs. In the short-term rental industry, we satisfy people's desires and wants. But it was a good way to get started. So,
has that? I know there's been a transition from short-term towards like workforce housing, insurance stays for midterm.
Yeah.
From the desires to needs perspective, is that some of the direction on why it's gone to midterm, or is it just simply like consolidation?
Yeah, no, it is. I got to the point where I didn't want to be taking housing units away from people. I mean, I think that there's a lot of houses out there to begin with, but it definitely was a topic of discussion. We were having to fight city councils and kind of deal with a lot of government issues out in California regarding like housing units and stuff. And I just thought we would take a different direction. And I mean, still we kind of are fighting that, a little bit.
Was it more based out of the need in Indianapolis was more workforce housing, and there's more profit to be found in that? Like, was it more not to say you're a bad guy if you're falling. Was it more that's where the demand was and less in the short-term rentals in Indiana? Because I know you moved back to Indiana to be closer to family.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I definitely saw the opportunity.
Yeah.
And have transitioned kind of understanding the supply and demand and scope and not wanting to take housing units away from people, because that's what we were doing. We in Indiana, when we moved here, we started buying small multifamily properties, converting them into furnished housing units and kicking the tenants out. And that was really hard to do because people have been there for a long time, and you're taking somebody's house out from under them and they're totally happy. And the only reason that you want to move them out is because you want to make more money. So I became kind of sensitive to that. I mean, I'm totally all for that, by the way.
I was joking, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am, but also there's a heart to it. Like,
yeah.
I didn't want to be a bad guy in our tenants' eyes. And so that's kind of why we transitioned to motels, because motels are already built and
They're
zoned
not doing much for society anyways, right?
No,
yeah,
or sitting there in eyesore.
And if people are living in a motel, then it's probably not the type of person that you want to have as a tenant.
Right. So rewinding back a second to short-term rentals, because I don't want to like skip way over that. You were really good at this. I mean, I saw you did some Airstreams, or at least one, right?
Yeah, we had Airstreams.
We'll have AJ, but like these were really solid. Was it? There's people who have questions like international Airbnb. I've heard some people are like, there's crazy money in it. Some people are like, this is terrible regulation. What was your experience putting up Airbnbs in Mexico? Was it easy? Was it hard?
When we started, there was a lot of money in it. It was really, really good. And it was fantastic. And we did, my wife and I, we work as a team, and we were designing some exceptional Airbnbs. But then in 2022, Mexico in particular put a tax on Airbnbs. And it ended up, by the time the guests pay taxes and fees and Airbnb stuff, it was like 50% of what the guests paid went to taxes and fees. And it became a huge headache. So that sucked all the profit out of it. So we really
did that just crush all the short-term rental operators?
It totally crushed everybody in Mexico.
Doesn't make any sense.
And it was a booming industry, and we were hiring a lot of people and paying them very well. And then we just said, we can't do this anymore.
Was there local resorts coming in to replace those units? I know in Indy, on a small scale, we have like 17,000 furnished rentals in Indianapolis. And we're dependent on, like, they include those numbers in when they're putting bids to host things like the Olympic trials or host things like the NBA All-Star Weekend. Like we need those hotel rooms to be able to get it. So in Mexico, were they starting to transition more towards resorts, or?
I don't think so. I think that there's a strong hotel lobby. It just works differently in Mexico.
Corruption and lobbyists.
And I mean, from Mexico's point of view, like, there was a lot of money coming into the country, and it wasn't being taxed. Like, we never paid a single tax on income for years.
It was like illegal marijuana. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made in that. And now all the growers in California are gone. I mean, none of them are even around anymore because now it's regulated and taxed appropriately. So it was kind of the wild west days of Airbnb in Mexico.
Yeah, and we had gotten it at the right time.
And how much money were you at your peak in Mexico? How much money per month were these cash flowing? Gross. Just curious.
Oh man, I don't know.
Give me a frame of reference here.
Probably $50,000. I don't know, $50,000 to $75,000 a month. I mean, it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. For people here, that's better than almost any Airbnb in Indiana per month. I can't think.
I'm talking about like multiple Airbnbs, not like one particular Airbnb. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like, what would one do?
Well, one would do. I mean, we could easily take a home that was worth $150,000 and make between roughly $6,000 a month off of it.
Yeah. Talk about the 1% rule. You got the whatever 6%,
6.5% rule.
No, it was wild. It was really
insane, dude.
It was awesome. And so we had a vision of building out an Airstream village on the water and making a really cool experience for people. But as soon as
motels.
Now we're doing motels, but as soon as they put that tax on there, we just stopped investing. And
was that part of what led you back to Indiana or not?
No, not at all.
Okay,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
And then you had a phase of owning in the United States, right? In other markets.
Yeah, in San Diego, and we were we had some there, and we actually, when we started, we would Airbnb our primary residence, and so because I was like, when I first got started, I said, this is really amazing, like this is cool, this is a great way to make money, and so I just kept our primary residence that we had just purchased on Airbnb that anybody could rent for a week at a time, and sometimes it would rent. And it'd be a couple $1,000 a month, and we would just pour that money back into the house. We'd live with my in-laws for a couple of days, and it was tough. But
Talk to me about your short-term rental operations. Were you cleaning it yourselves? Did you always hire a cleaner? Like, were you always setting up the furnishings yourselves? Like, how involved were you in the operations of this?
my wife and I learned to work together really well, and we would furnish them together. She would do the design. As far as the cleaning and whatnot, we would always hire that out. And as far as guest relations, we hired that out as well. So we had some people that were managing that. And I mean, we were really involved still. We wanted to make sure that everything was going well. And I was spending a lot of time on this. So I was really involved, but I wasn't cleaning and whatnot.
And it's not like you've totally abandoned short-term rentals. I mean, you still have some, right? Do you have any?
I have totally abandoned short-term rentals.
You've abandoned them. Okay. Take that back. I'll shut up.
So it's become very saturated, right? And at least the past few years, I think COVID blew the lid off of STRs, especially in the fact
It's not nearly as lucrative. It's more
Right.
costly.
Like I look at your portfolio, you have short-term rentals.
I have two.
And there's one specific one that I always challenge you on and go, you could get more long-term than you could short-term. What are you doing?
Medium term, and we'll get into medium term. We're going to talk at length about that, is probably more worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Short term it's hard for me to justify the squeeze other than I'm giving someone a job. Because I have a manager, I call them just my ops manager, and they also clean, both of them, two different people for two different neighborhoods. And they run it. I mean, they're making approximately 25% of the revenue of the unit when I factor in the cleaning revenue and their percentage. So it's really good cash flow for them, but they put time into it. For me, once I pay my mortgage and repairs, I'm happy with $200 to the bottom line. I mean, a month. And it's like, is that really worth even looking at it on a day-to-day basis? No. So I try to put it pretty out of sight, out of mind until it blows up in my face when the sewer breaks. That's a story for another day. But I've tried to just make it really, really passive and just a long-term thing. And I don't mind giving someone, some cash flow, that some lady that is an operator that wants to do that. And if I get more units, give them more. Because you would have to think the booking revenue will still continue to climb, as inflation goes up, like it's going to continue to climb. So I'm seeing it like in 10 years, am I going to be sad that I had this short term? No, I mean, I'll be probably thrilled I had it, That's kind of my perspective on my two short-term rentals, at least.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to make it, and it's a lot of work. But if you have somebody,
all right, so I should just go sell them, guys.
No, I mean,
you telling me
You don't have to sell them, but like,
I was just
it might
rationalizing.
be a better
me holding
strategy for you.
No.
I mean,
And it might just be, hey, medium term rental, put them in, forget them on for 3 months. I mean, I do that in the winter months when it's slower, and those checks are really nice.
well,
to see.
let's talk about it. I mean, I
Right.
said 17,000 furnished rentals right now. 17,000? No, 1,700 furnished rentals in Indy currently. The average rate for long term is what? We say $1,000 to $1,600 for a standard unit.
Mhm.
These like midterm rentals are getting, I've seen 3,800 on the high end. Now, conservatively, like we'll call it 3,500 a month from whether it be travel nurses, insurance, workforce. I don't see how that wouldn't be more profitable for you.
Well, I'm not getting 3,800 for mine.
Really?
Not a chance.
What are you getting? What is it? Nurses?
2,000 on a 2-bedroom, 1 bath.
Okay. I was
And
going
then
like
the other one I put up for 2,700 and didn't get anyone, so I just continued to do short-term rental because it was making that much at least a month in short-term rental revenue. So I mean, these are in more up and coming areas of Indy. I mean, you buy a house in Meridian Kessler, furnish it, you're going to spend $500K on the house, but yeah, you're going to get $5,000 a month. So the neighborhood is everything.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think if you can get, this is my perspective on Indianapolis. When he starts talking about Kokomo and Muncie, I won't know a thing. But
Right.
in Indianapolis, you really do want to get into the good neighborhoods because your rent rate is, you furnish that thing, like you're going to be cash flowing, even if your mortgage is really high.
Right.
It's all about the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's fair. I still would challenge you on the 2,700. I've seen people in Hallville get 3,800 for a 2-1.
It's about the demand and like the surge, and I think that
they're constantly on Furnish Finder for midterm.
Right.
I think maybe the challenge that you have is you flex.
Right. I don't think I gave it enough time because I noticed people book late. They book like a week before.
Well, it depends on the demographic. If it's nurses, they don't know where they're going. Like they maybe didn't know that they were going to be working in Indy a week before. I know you don't even touch any nursing, right?
We do a little bit of nursing now,
Okay.
but we talk about the booking window and whatnot. Like I don't accept anything more than a week out because I know that most of our reservations come day of or a couple days out.
That tip alone
Right.
would have increased my revenue.
Because you want somebody
No,
that is already planning and knows the structure around their income. Because I mean, yeah, I think that's huge, right? If the person's booking the week of, they're like, oh, just an Indy. We're gonna get a house now that I know where I'm working.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what we do. So we don't take any bookings far out. But one of the issues that I saw with the short-term rental industry was that there was no cap on the supply. And even with the midterm rental, there's no cap on the supply unless the city has passed some regulation that limits it. And so anybody that owns a house or wants to arbitrage a house can take one and rent it out. And so that really changes the economics of the short-term rental industry and what we're doing. And I saw that as a big red flag because you just saw this huge uptick of supply in the short-term rental industry and prices just got compressed. And it became far less attractive for the amount of work that you have to put into it. I mean, if you $200 a month, no, there's no way I would do that, off of an investment. There's too much liability. And then the other thing that's factored in is I guess oftentimes not factored in is just the wear and tear on the house. As a short-term, people are just coming in there and trashing things. They don't care about it. But midterm rental, totally different because they're practically not even in the house.
It's their
They're
home.
out working.
They're working a lot, but it's also their home for the next few months. So they can't trash it.
Yeah. So we have a lot less wear and tear and a lot less headaches. Like I don't have to replace people's, toilet paper and,
So walk us through the medium-term rental strategy that you've employed. What properties are you looking for, and what is your who are you trying to rent them to? Like, walk us through the strategy there.
Yeah, so there's a couple of clients that you can appeal to, nurses being one of them. And a lot of times those nurses travel in ones and twos, and they're looking for 1-bedroom, 2-bathroom places close to hospitals. There's insurance housing, which is, we saw a lot of opportunity in that when we first started, and it's still there, but insurance housing. So somebody's house burns or floods, the insurance company will reach out in a couple of different ways. And there was a big announcement last week that CRS, which is a big insurance housing provider, has just partnered with Airbnb to help their clients find housing. So a lot of those leads come through Airbnb, but somebody's house burns or floods and they need temporary housing. So if you've got a 3-bedroom house, you can get good money if it's in the right area. A lot of times the clients have very specific criteria.
These are coming to you on Airbnb.
They'll come on Airbnb. They'll come through relationships with insurance adjusters. They'll come through Furnish Finders. They'll come through Verbo.
Who books them and who pays for it?
Who books it? It really depends. Sometimes, ultimately, it's the policyholder that needs to give the approval.
Yeah.
It's the insurance company that's paying for it.
Gotcha. I think I asked that because I'm like, okay, so how do you advertise the direction, right? Because if you have a unit and you're saying, I want insurance housing for this unit, it has to, and it's the policyholder, they have to have already had the house burn down or flood, right?
Yeah.
And be looking for it. So it's opportunistic. I have two clients that were affected by the tornadoes in Brownsburg. They became clients after their roofs were blown off, and they're living in hotels right now. And I'm struggling to get them in a unit because there's so many people that were affected that anything in Brownsburg or on the west side has already been taken. And to your point, it's like very specific criteria. They want to live near where they already were. They don't want to go downtown and live in Tyler's house, right? They want to be out in the donut counties and live the same lifestyle. And they're going to pay like 20 grand right now to stay in a hotel.
20 grand a month.
Because that's where the nightly rate is, because there was a whole neighborhood affected and there's only 2 or 3 hotels to go to. So they all went to 2 or 3 hotels, and guess what happens? Nightly rate goes up because they have occupancy, the Hilton or whatever, just naturally. And they're not, they don't have a checkout day right now because they don't know where they're going to go. So I'm like trying to get them into at least a long-term rental to like transfer some furniture over or something. That made me think of the strategy that you have and like how impactful it is, because those conversations are tough, right? I mean, they're just going to bed one night. All of a sudden, now they're living in a hotel.
Yeah, you're really helping somebody find a house, and you're really helping them a lot. I mean, in California, after the fires, houses were renting for $250,000 a month.
Yep.
I can't even comprehend. And those have to be houses owned by billionaires,
I mean, people were just gouging.
That's tough, and that's
it's
where,
just the way that it works. But alternatively, they're going to stay in a hotel, and the insurance company's going to have to pay a lot of money. So if you take a single family house or whatever it might be, you get the right property, you could charge a lot more than you would as a long-term rental, and they're going to be happy, and you're going to be really happy.
So when you started with medium term, were you just getting single family homes, or did you go right into buying buildings?
No, single family homes.
Homes. And what did the average one rent for?
Well, so California, the most I ever got was $20,000 a month for 5-bedroom. So on average, we were looking about $8,000 a month for a 3-bedroom. So that's
in California.
In California, it's not dissimilar here.
8,000.
Maybe more like between 5 and 8. I mean, it kind of depends on the finishings.
Yeah. What I'm looking at in Brownsburg right now for these 2 clients, we've walked a rental that's 12 grand a month, and the other one was 9 grand a month. And I'm not so convinced that this isn't like, like the Smiths just picked up and moved themselves and went to the in-laws house.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Saw the news and literally, like when I was walking around the house, I'm like, all right, either these are some really good stock images that they picked, or like this is still just a family that just went, to a sibling's house to stay.
Yeah.
It's wild. And I'd never seen it. You've talked about it. And honestly, I've done exactly what he's doing and been in like disbelief when we've been in masterminds and you're talking through the rates. I'm like,
you're consistently getting 5,000 to 8,000 on like a 3-bedroom unit, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can even do that unfurnished.
And these are even the nurses.
What?
Even the nurses?
No, not the nurses.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, definitely not.
These are the insurance.
But I think that's the benefit, right? Because you're not within the 465 loop with anything, right? Everything's in
everything's outside of it. Everything's outside of 465.
And I think that is the cheat code. When you're inside 465, who do you have to rent to? You have they're either working in a hospital or working on a huge construction project. And even that, I still think that you are taking a discount on that that demographic of tenant. Mm-hmm. They're probably getting much more on their paycheck, would be my guess, to be able to go up to like that 35, 4,000 mark.
Well, the difference in these tertiary markets that he's in, the supply is really low. There's not as many people doing it. We're the lucky ones in Indy that get all the out-of-state investors. And when I look on Furnished Finder at the purple dots available, it's like so many, it's the whole screen's purple because there's a million furnished rentals downtown. So like I'm just battling the market sets the rate, right?
Yeah.
I would think in Kokomo, maybe it's happening, but like these out-of-state investors from New York or Florida, they don't even know what Kokomo is. Never heard of Kokomo.
They do.
They do.
They're finding it.
They found it.
No, they have. They've definitely. I've talked to some, and they know what's going on.
Hush because they're listening.
Well, Lebanon is a huge one. Lebanon, Pulte Homes was building an entire neighborhood, and one investor wrote millions of dollars check to buy the entire neighborhood, the whole neighborhood of row houses.
It doesn't surprise me. He's going to make more than $1 million, on the sale with Lilly and Meta coming in, the $14 billion development there. Are you doing anything in Lebanon?
Yeah, we have some units in Lebanon, midterm rental units.
Now's a great time to be buying that.
I don't know. I think you're late if you're buying.
Well,
now.
No, you're not late yet.
You're not late. I mean, it's just there's nothing to buy. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like you can.
There's nothing to buy.
There's
Do
nothing.
you remember
to
the
buy.
triplex
So
that we looked at, like in 2023? Why did we not buy that?
I looked at that listing for so long. And I was
It's
like,
sat
I know
forever.
I'm gonna, like, you could rent those for $5,000 a month, those units. And it was on the market for $300. I know you could.
I know. Why did
Yeah,
we
it
not
was
buy
right
it?
in the town. You could walk to. I just was meeting with a buddy who said there's 10 breweries in downtown Lebanon. I was like, he said 10. I was like, there's no way there's 10. He said, yeah, there's 10. Like, go. He's like, we hang out there all the time. I was like, what is going on in Lebanon?
Right.
You need
We
to
just
take a
had
field trip.
the mayor of Lebanon at our brokerage monthly agent meeting, and he was talking through just the massive amount of money that Lilly is putting in to just simply get water to their facility, and just the amount of change that's happening there. I don't know how it survives and lasts long term. How long have you been?
what lasts long term?
Just a town in general. That's the locals were having an uproar over the Walmart being constructed like 10 years ago.
Well, it's not. Nobody's going to stop it now.
Well, yeah, but
well-
still, I'm just meaning long term, as in like Lilly moves out and it like
Well, Lebanon also has the advantage of being the first stop to the third largest city in the nation, Chicago.
True.
So getting a lot of transplants right and logistic hub. Rex Fisher, our mentor, talks about this all the time. That line from Lebanon through Brownsburg, Avon,
and
Plainfield,
they're
the
putting
airport.
a road there too.
Crazy.
massive.
Just the amount of money there with the logistics. Avon, every farm possible has been sold, and now you have a huge warehouse there. And all that real estate is going to be affected and is being affected, which is why we're going to Danville. But
Yeah.
investors don't go
Well,
to
Lebanon's a
Danville.
great spot just because it's proximity to Lafayette, Chicago, 30 minutes to the airport.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's just, and the town is totally going to change. I mean, there's no stopping it. I mean, I think it's mostly the development's happening on the west side of 65. And they're having a lot of problems with utilities. And I think they have partially solved some of the water issues. The town of Lebanon uses 3 million gallons of water a day. They needed to get like 50 million gallons a day for a microchip factory that was going to move in, but I don't think that they solved that problem. I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, they have a issue where the water level or water levy is too low to be able to like add natural supplies, so it has to come in from elsewhere.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure Lilly is like running millions of dollars worth of piping to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, they
And
were
they've bought like tons of houses that
Bye
are going
bye,
to be
Wabash.
demolished by it.
yeah,
Tippecanoe
they're going to
River.
take the Wabash 40 or 50 million gallons a day from the Wabash, but that hasn't passed, I don't think. So they're maybe going to bring some up from Eagle Creek or something. But
Did you know Indianapolis is in water supply is Eagle Creek, the
Yeah.
city.
wow,
That's where they pull it from.
I didn't know that.
Crazy. Yeah. A small creek can provide a lot of drinking
Well, I
water,
think
guess.
also from the White River, which bleeds into.
I think it's mostly Eagle Creek. Our supply, the White River, don't quote me on this, I think was like too dirty and not good enough. Eagle Creek was.
I think they figured
they
that.
figured it out.
I'm pretty
Maybe
sure.
it's White River.
The only reason I say that is because the CEO of Citizens was at the opening day for Olympic trials, and the pool had been filled from the White River, to which took drinking water away. And like they were talking about just not running sprinklers, how much it saves. He was talking about that there is a water problem in Indy, and like you don't need to water your grass every single day. Basically, is what he was saying. Water it once a week, and
That's
it'll be
scary
fine.
if we're having water problems in Indiana, where we literally border a Great Lake and have multiple rivers and just had a massive flood. Can only imagine in California what they're feeling.
Yeah, they've got a lot more water problems out there.
Yeah. Have you seen the plans to pipe the water from Lake Superior?
No,
Oh yeah, LA wanted to do it.
from
They're gonna
Lake
pay for it.
How?
Superior
Huge pipe. Lake Superior.
Huge pipe.
Tons of.
across the country.
They have unlimited water in that. I mean, that is a large body of water. It's the largest freshwater lake in the world now.
How does that? That's like 2 days to drive, right?
Yeah, it's a big pipe.
A lot of water.
Yeah, they're gonna die if they don't.
Well, we're not going to solve water problems.
Yeah, we're not.
No, talking about water and San Diego and Mexico and stuff. There's this is totally random, but there's a river in Tijuana that runs along the border called the Tijuana River Valley, and it's all sewage water. It's open sewage water, and it's been draining into the United States for like 30 years. And it's this massive problem. And basically what the president said was the U.S. sends a lot of water to Mexico. And so we're going to stop sending you guys water. You guys got to fix this issue. So they've got all kinds of problems out there. And our water bills in San Diego are atrocious. I don't think Indiana is going to have any water problems for a long time, except for, trying to solve the problems for these huge manufacturers. Because if you're bringing a microchip factory, what is it called? Yeah, microchip. It's like they need 30 to 40 million gallons a day to produce their product. It's an enormous amount of water. So if they want to attract these $50 billion projects, then they're going to have to figure that out. But
which from what I've heard, the resolve was literally just putting it back on the person that's building. It's like, you've got to figure it out. Yeah. And like, here's the resource that you can go to, but here's the cost implication, which is, it's wild that they're, I don't know. Lebanon just seems like such a interesting place for Meta specifically. I'm shocked that why the Midwest doesn't make sense.
I want to tell you a story real quick about this Lebanon property. We bought this Lebanon property, and we were converting it into a 5-unit. And my contractor started pulling up the floorboards, and he's like, "This is really weird. There's 4 layers of floor here. I don't know what's going on." And he kept pulling it up, and he called me and he said, "We have a problem. I just found a dead body underneath the floorboards."
What?
It was wild. Okay, this is a 1910 house. It was built in 1910, and he found a dead body underneath the floorboards. I was like, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Call the cops and halt the project for potentially a long time? I did. I called the cops, and they came out and they shut the place down. It was an active crime scene. They took the bones, and it was a pretty wild experience. You never know what you're going to get in some of these small towns, especially with these old houses. They found everything except the head, and it was a child, they think. But I was terrified. I was petrified. And my wife and I were like, what are we going to do? I don't know.
So did you end up finishing the renovation?
We just went ahead. They released the house back to us, and they said, you can do whatever you want. It's going to take us a couple of months to get some background on the bones and the body. We might have to open up the house again and get in there. And we just took the risk, and we said, we can't afford to not do anything for 6 months. So we're just going to, finish the project. And we never heard back from the police, but that was the wildest real estate experience I've been a part of. And the other tenants were like, there's 15 police officers there for a long time, dogs, everything, cameras. And the other tenants were like, what's going on? We don't understand why there's so many police. And I said, don't worry about it. It's just, they found some ancient artifacts.
So they don't know.
It was,
well, I was surprised there wasn't press release on that.
Yeah.
Good.
Thankfully there wasn't.
It wasn't. Yeah.
So, but yeah, Lebanon's a good spot. I think one of the challenges with the tertiary markets is that the demand may not be as strong as it's going to be in the in Indianapolis. So you can come across that, especially if you're focused on insurance rentals. Then, somebody's house in Martinsville, they might have one fire or one flood every 6 months or something. I don't know. It's not a very dense population down there. Where in a place like Indianapolis, you're going to have, with a more density, you're going to have a lot more activity. If you're doing it, you can do very well at it. Same thing in San Diego. I mean, it's every day that somebody has a major issue and needs to rent a house, and the insurance company is just, they're begging to get in to a house because they're paying double for the hotel. So,
and the
it's
hotel
interesting.
amenities aren't even it doesn't suffice a house, right? Much different than living. Imagine living in a hotel for a month, what that does to diet, to life cycle. If you have kids, you've got one hotel room, 2 beds, like just all the things layer and stack on top of each other of just how unhealthy it is. I know that there's, of course, hotels that offer month-long stays that probably have kitchenettes, and there's ways around what I'm bringing up. But I just think the houses are important and can be very impactful.
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to latch onto and come back. Rental arbitrage. Have you ever went for a long-term rental and furnished it?
No, what I used to do, yes, I have done this. So what I used to do was I'd get these leads from the insurance companies. I wouldn't have a house available. So I'd go on Zillow and find one, contact the owner, say, hey, somebody wants to pay X amount of dollars a month in rent. Can we figure this out? And we would come to a deal, and I would take a spread and get somebody in there. So I used to do that. And I would then be totally hands off. I was like, I'm going to process the payment for you. You take care of everything else. It's totally changed. I mean, some people still do that. And I know some guys that are making like pretty good money doing that, but it's not as easy as it used to be.
Well, I think that's the challenge, right? Is finding here's how everybody thinks about rental arbitrage, at least since midterm rentals blew up. And I would say really when I got interested in investing, which is like 17, 18, 19, mowing the grass, listen to Bigger Pockets. MTR, just everybody nonstop started talking about it. And it was because of the nurses traveling, mostly, is why people started. And then it went to, you can arbitrage these short-term rentals, and you can start to write a long-term lease for $1,000 a month and start cash flowing your, whatever Tyler's getting on his short-term rental is $200 margin, and furnish the place out and do it that way. And people still do. I think the challenge becomes is the leads. Like that is, nobody knows how to get those insurance leads that you get. And it's probably just connections through other units that you've had.
Yeah, it's connections, it's insurance adjusters, they do come through Airbnb.
But I think meaning like, so people will go and take the risk. They'll rent the 123 Main Street for $1,500 a month. They'll go put $10,000 into the unit, and then they go and like try to look. But you're so far down the rabbit hole at that point, having it in the direction that you were. You're like, well, I've got the tenant. I've got to find the house now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's a cheat code.
Yeah.
That's what Addison does as well. He went on for
he does that with long-term
rentals,
which I think is much easier than.
Well, the trick that you were doing was you didn't furnish it, so you don't have this collateral and this like liability there.
Right, because you'd have to have.
You were just a middleman.
To be able to overcome that, like I don't understand how rental arbitrage works in the first place. If you're putting 10 to 15,000 into furnishing a place, where's the money?
Yeah, I don't know how people make that work.
They don't. Make it work. I don't know anyone who does it for a very long amount of time.
In the insurance space, the insurance companies, like you can find a non-furnished home and then rent furniture. That's what they do a lot now.
Gotcha.
So you could do that, or you just look for furnished.
I guess I didn't know that you could rent furniture.
Yeah. So they'll rent the furniture. They're going to adjust for that in the price, but I wouldn't recommend that strategy.
You have no equity.
It's a hustle. I mean, you could theoretically cash flow very well, but it's really hard to find the landlords who are willing to accept a lease that is maybe going to be 3 months or 6 months, or they don't know, but it's not going to be a year. And a lot of questions. I mean, ultimately, the ones that do take you up on that like the money. They're not going to, they're getting 2 to 3 times the amount of rent.
If I had somebody call me on one of my units, because I'm only long term, and they said, hey, Max, I'm going to sublet this out as either an STR or an MTR. I'm going to furnish your place and sublet it out. Will you let me sign a lease for $1,500? I would hang up and say, kick rocks. Like, no. If they called me and said $2,500 and I didn't have to do anything, now we might be talking. But it begs back to like, how are they making money? There's a lot of people that do this strategy though. And I think it's the wholesaling method. How do you get into house flipping? Well, you go in wholesale. You cold call and you get the lead and you sell the house and make the 1K margin, and then you keep doing that over and over again and it starts to pile up. I just don't understand why people want to own houses without owning houses all the time. I don't think you can't, right? The whole wealth in it is the equity.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a guy the other day call me about doing just that. And I was like, what are you doing right now? He's like, I'm renting. I was like, go buy a duplex, 3.5% down. Like, don't waste your money on furniture for this like rat race type of a thing. It's more of a rat race type of a strategy.
Can you even tax depreciate that strategy? Like if you owned,
You have deductions, but no, there's no depreciation. You don't have a property.
Yeah.
Depreciation whatsoever. That's for property owners only.
Yeah. When you're talking about doing what I was doing, yeah,
you were being like a service provider, right?
kind of. I mean,
like a leasing agent in a way. They didn't call you to be a leasing agent, but you're bringing opportunity.
but I wasn't doing it to get equity, or obviously I knew that I didn't have any equity in these deals, but it was great cash flow. It's like, man, if you get 25 of these going at any single time, you're doing pretty good, because you could take a $2,000 a month spread and everybody's happy. And then you could go buy a house with that.
Right. But if you had the furnishing in there, the spread's gone.
No, that you don't do that. In this, you would never be able to do that.
So I'm curious, the transition into buying larger buildings. How hard was that to switch from? I see single family homes. Get good single family homes, renovate them, put furniture in them, rent them out. I'm sure you refinance them or whatever. Take the capital and keep doing the bigger buildings. What price points are you in? What are you getting these buildings at? And what does that investment look like?
Yeah, they're not as much as you would think. We started slow, and we still kind of go really slow. We don't do a whole lot of debt, and we slow walk into a market just to feel what it's going to be like. So started with duplexes and fourplexes and now the motels, and they don't cost that much money. I mean, they're really not. I mean, you can get a motel for $300 that would have 10 rooms, $30,000 a door. They're really hard to find. I'm talking about old motels that need a lot of work. By the time you're done renovating them, you might be in $50,000 a door, but it's an interesting strategy. It's a completely different animal. The management, the reputation within the city, has a lot to do with the success of the project. I mean, we've had some pretty interesting stories and situations. So yeah, we're not buying like multi-million-dollar properties.
Yeah, you're not going on LoopNet and just buying the sticker price multifamily.
No,
you're getting the ones that are beat down and nobody really wants them.
Nobody wants them. Yeah, I mean a lot of Indian, like they call the Patels, that own the motels.
Patels own the motels.
Patel motels, and so there's a lot of foreigners in this game. It's interesting. And I don't know if I'll stay in it, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of opportunity to convert motels into workforce housing units and to market to that, market, depending on where you're at. But yeah, I'd say, less, in some cases, less than a single family house, you can buy 10 units.
And so have you bought
is it all cash?
That's what I was about to ask.
No. The motel's with financing from a bank.
Financing.
Yeah.
Is that through like commercial lending? Or
Commercial lending, yeah.
Yeah. Do they do any help on because the conversion can't be cheap?
It's a lot more expensive than I anticipated. I'm just cash flowing it right now. I could have gotten a loan for the renovations, but I'm just figuring out how to make it work.
And you'll be able to refinance on it. I'm sure it's going to appraise for much more.
Yeah.
Would it not appraise in a different class category? Because you're buying it as a motel, but kind of making it an apartment building.
Yeah. So you can convert them into apartments. I don't know how to do that, but I know that you can. There's actually one for sale
through
right
an
now.
actual zoning. You're saying.
I mean, I don't know what they were required to call it an apartment.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people successfully convert these, like bigger hotels into apartments, and I don't know if you have to have a kitchen,
What are you putting in them?
We're putting kitchenettes when possible, and refrigerators, air fryers, microwaves, coffee makers.
I can't imagine that doesn't classify in a residential, like.
Probably just depends on your appraiser, to be honest.
Right.
These appraisers, there's so much.
Well, yeah,
because depending on just their bias and what they feel like judging it as that day.
Well, there's so many different checks, right? In the appraisal, as you dig deep into what actually goes into an appraisal packet, there are a lot of item lines that they're looking at, and having the kitchenette appraises for much more value than not having the kitchen. I can't imagine that you wouldn't be able to refinance that for like quite a bit more than what you bought it for, like a 5x feels like.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe, but we'll see. I mean, we're almost done with the renovations of one up in up north of Kokomo, and we'll see.
What's the draw in Kokomo?
The draw, the Stellantis Samsung factory, which may have ground to a halt. I'm not sure. There's big factories up there, and I think there'll be more factories moving in. If this one doesn't work, then there'll be other ones coming into town. So,
and it's the construction
workers and union workers.
A lot of the trades will write the checks, right? So your like welders and your electricians, those unions will pay the bills.
The individuals will pay.
Okay,
the individuals get a
crazy amount of money
stipend for housing.
Got it.
On a motel, I mean, we're talking about, essentially a glorified bedroom, right? I mean, maybe there's a kitchenette. Is there?
Some of them have kitchenettes. They're very small, 150 square feet.
What do you rent this one in Kokomo out for per month?
Per month, we do per week. So starts at $400 a week.
Yeah, because whenever you get down into the trades, like the welders might not need to be there a week later. I have a friend who just recently started traveling for welding, doing traveling welding, and he's like getting $3,000 for a couple weeks to be in Texas, and then he comes home. He'll share that with 4 guys, and they'll just stay in one unit together, and then they come back home, and he's just got all this money.
Yeah, I can see how there's a lot of money in this. Is this not a management nightmare? I mean, weekly checks you're collecting, tons of turnover. How do you manage all that?
Is it all through Airbnb?
No, it's not through Airbnb. It is complicated. We have an on-site manager who lives there.
Oh, wow.
And in return for managing it all, they live for free. So it's a lot to keep up with. And when we bought it, it was a very challenging tenant class. Pedophiles, felons, people that had nowhere place else to go. Absolutely horrific conditions. That the owner, there's people that buy these things, they just run them to the ground, charge as much rent as they can, and don't do any upgrades or any updates. And I mean, they make a lot of money, but it is a hard game to play. And so, it's tough to manage. And everybody was paying up when we first bought it. Everybody was paying in cashier's checks, and I would get weekly checks or weekly envelopes from USPS from the manager. And it oftentimes delivered to the wrong. I mean, we're talking, $3,000 a week or whatever, and delivered to the wrong house, and lost in the mail. I'm like, these are cashier's checks. Like, I can't replace these. And there was no other. They didn't have email addresses. They had no other way to pay. They could pay with cash. It was just a total nightmare. So, you got to kind of step in and bring a different level of professionalism to this, which we're still in the process of doing for this particular one. But yeah, it's a different animal.
And I don't need to go back and harp on Lebanon constantly. Lebanon's also midterm.
Yeah, Lebanon's midterm.
And that one, but is that one managed through B&B on the 5 unit, or is that
Airbnb? Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I just, as you're talking about it, thinking about Plainfield, if you drive up US 40, there's a ton of these motels that are, surface lot parking. You pull up. I just saw one go through a renovation, and I was thinking of like what the demo is there. How'd you buy that? How'd you buy the unit in Kokomo? Was it LoopNet? Where'd you find the property?
It was on LoopNet, and actually there was 3 of them for sale for $1.5 million, and I was going to buy all 3 of them, and I'm really thankful I didn't. I didn't know I was getting myself into. Just bought the one in Peru, and right before closing, I bailed on the other 2. But they were on LoopNet, and I still look. You rarely find these things for sale.
Yeah,
there's just so few of them. You rarely find them.
I felt like I saw you one day, and you said, "I'm going to buy a motel," and I was like, "That's super cool. I want to hear more about it." And then the next time you're like, "I might have 3 under contract," and you're asking for a inspector recommendation, and then it like came full circle, and you're like, "Oh, I only ended up getting one of them." Because then I'm just thinking about the demographic in like Plainfield, Indiana, for example,
Right.
and all the warehouses that
Those
went up.
could be very lucrative as this, I would think.
Yeah.
Tons of workers. I mean, the airport right there,
Right.
right back door for them to need housing.
I can imagine that they wouldn't be commuting into the city.
Right.
But I'm wondering if all of the point I'm getting to those on US 40, I'm wondering if it all got developed because of all the warehouses that are now finished. There's no more land.
You also got the strip club over there, but yeah,
That is true. That's probably it. It's dancers
There's a
on
few.
40 for sure.
yeah.
That's what the draw is.
So you said they go rarely. I know we're going really in deep, but I think this is interesting to a lot of people. They rarely go for sale, yet a lot of owners run them to the ground. I would think they would be kind of like trashier assets that people wouldn't want, but it's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are trashy that they don't want, and
They just don't go for sale often.
they just
There's
don't
3
go
in
for
Danville
sale.
that we should be buying.
I mean, if you try to buy them, you know, you go in there and it's families running them. They've raised their kids there. They're internationals. It's how they provide for their family. I've tried to buy several of these, and you just never find them. Like you go knock on the door, and they're like, "We're not selling." Nobody. It's so yeah.
And do you think the reason why the 3 popped up near Kokomo was because of the plant? They knew that it had appreciated so much they were exiting, or just situational?
These guys didn't have any clue about the factory. They're
Nice.
from Michigan, and they own
gotta
a
love the
lot of
estate.
them.
Yeah. They're just like, that's a great number from where they bought it for $100K.
Yeah, like 2 years
Like-
later, and then they were hiding all this stuff from us, and anyway,
that's
they
always
they
fun.
were happy. We were not ultimately, but
You will be.
There are, hopefully there are some people that are out there doing this that are not living there on site and managing it. But I think the best model, honestly, like to buy one of these, and if you're willing to live
House hack
there,
it.
to house hack, you will never have to work another day in your life like that.
Buy out your W-2 job by buying a motel and living there.
Yeah.
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 No, seriously.
Well, that's what
So-
these foreigners have done,
Yeah, exactly.
you know?
That's why they don't want to sell them.
If you could
I
buy the
don't know.
laundromat in the same parking lot too, now we're talking.
Yeah, or I was even thinking, same day lending type of a thing. I don't, like you could do really well with a lot of different variations of this, but yeah. And there was another one I was going to buy in Nashville, Indiana, and it was a really good deal. I found it off market, and then I found out that it was on a septic, and the septic was going to cost as much as the building that I was purchasing to replace. So the septic was going to cost as much as the building, and so I said, "No way." That's the thing. The caveat with these is that if you do not do your due diligence, you could potentially be really in trouble because there's massive capex on some of these projects, on some of these buildings.
Yeah, it's a different. What would you budget percentage wise of income,
Percentage of income.
or per unit, maybe per year capex to like say back?
Well, I just did this. I'd say 10%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a healthy amount.
it is.
So something I'm hyper curious, and we're going to transition out of the super heady real estate talk, but
We're like salivating to go get a motel now.
yeah, no joke. I'm sure a lot of listeners will be eyes opened here, but you have a lot of cash flow coming in. I know it's pretty variable. Managing cash flow, what have you learned from mistakes? How do you manage cash flow? Do you take a salary? Do you how much do you reinvest? Where do you how much do you save for each property? Do you split it by property? Just talk to me about what you've learned there.
I think the background is huge on this. Tyler's asking this because we're service providers still at the end of the day, right? The way that we feed our families is by selling real estate, listing, and helping people buy property. We have rental portfolios, neither of which are like cash flow heavy. And when we talk to somebody like you that has the cash flow and is able to do this full time, there's some envy there and some like, we need your wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. I do use the money for personal use when needed. But I also reinvest a lot of it, because I don't like carrying a lot of debt. And so I'm not afraid to use it. I do reinvest. I take, it's hard to say a percentage, but between 5 and 10% of the income and save it for CapEx expenditures, put it into what do you call it? Index fund. So see that grow. And then otherwise just, the money's in there when we need it. Sometimes more than others, obviously. And like right now, I have some great guys that I love working with and trying to give them as much work as possible. So we're going and updating all of our properties, and we have it doesn't necessarily make financial sense to do that, but I want to keep these guys employed. So we're doing it, you know what I mean? So we've got a little bit of flexibility, and my wife also works. And so we've got her income, and at this point, it's not that variable. It's pretty steady. And I don't know if it will, as we go through the winter season, if that's going to continue, but I think it will. I think once you get these projects stabilized, you can live off the cash flow.
Have you ever read the book Profit First?
Yeah.
Is that something you would put into practice, have put into practice? I'm just curious.
Not in the way that he lays it out in that book, but in theory, yes.
'Cause that's what I would love to do with investments.
I like the 1%. Like basically every check that comes in, just stick 1% in a check or in a savings account that you just never look at, and then like stumble upon it eventually.
It'd be nice.
The problem is I stumble.
Honey, date night.
Well,
Finally made enough $50 checks.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
the problem is I stumble upon it when March or April comes around and taxes are due. And I'm like, here we go. Got to feed the kid this month. It's a challenge. And everybody that we've had on here that owns rentals does not live off the cash flow. We've yet to have one.
Yeah, we had to have one.
We've had Rex, Nick Giuliani, everybody's.
I want to find someone that's literally going to pay groceries with their tenants' checks they wrote them, and like just see how they manage that. I think it's fascinating and it's challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I am all for it, actually. I mean, the reason why I love real estate, I love this approach, is because it does throw off enough cash for you to potentially live on if you want to. And I've got
Like if your wife lost her job, you could, you
I've
know,
got
you'd
time.
change some things, but yeah.
You said the word stabilize. What year or timeline do you think stabilization comes into a unit or month?
It's honestly, I can't answer that question. It's really, that's really complicated because it depends on the market.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Lebanon is stabilized, like our property in Lebanon.
Probably like
it's
minute one.
probably going to be good. It actually, no, it started off really slow. Now I've got a waiting list of like 50 people that need a
Yeah, there's not enough housing.
And so I think that'll be fine as long as the project goes. If the project stop, all stabilization is gone.
Right, because they flee and move out.
Because who's going to pay what we charge? Nobody.
Right.
So it's a challenge in that regard, thinking about that. But I think it's
Well, there's been some healthy bets on some residential units that won't stop. So I think the guy that bought the Pulte neighborhood would be pretty sad if those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then again, Kokomo, somebody just announced a $150 million project in Kokomo. And then shortly after, Stellantis is saying that they're going to halt the project for maybe another year.
Huh.
Well, that's a lot of people that are not going to be in town that I'm sure this project was anticipating. I don't know the details about it. I'm just speculating, but I imagine, they're thinking
Right.
about it.
I think that has always been my curiosity. I love that you're early on the areas because that's how you have to be, right, to be able to get in. But I've always gone, wait, what happens whenever the construction stops? But the answer is, the hope is workforce travel never stops, right? Like in Lebanon, Lily will have people traveling in that need housing, and they'll stay right around the corner.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Or just their employees
Or
in
you
general.
buy it low before people know about it.
This is true.
Right? You do the work.
Well, yeah, we probably have like 5 offers for your Lebanon house by the end of this episode.
And you sell it high after all the projects are done and appreciation has occurred. And
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of a good way to do it.
it is. No,
And then you move
you're
on to the next.
And you move on to the
town.
next one. But I don't think these projects, I mean, with
years.
Indiana is a great place to do business. So people just want to do business here. They love it. So
Yeah.
they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, the Midwest charm. Yeah, we have some rapid fire questions that we can wrap up the episode with. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. You live in Westfield.
Yeah.
What is a hidden gem place to eat in Westfield?
Okay. Nyla's?
Not.
Yeah. Nice
kind
little
of
spot. Been there one time. I'm not a big, we don't go out to eat a whole lot, but it's downtown Westfield, and it's, I don't know what kind of food it is. How you define
It's just
it.
good food.
I do have another thing though about Westfield. It's Westfield, Boone County maybe. My favorite thing to do in Westfield is in the summertime is go to the Hickory Polo Club matches. Have you guys been to those?
No.
Oh, best thing
I'm gonna
ever. Okay. Starts up in May and goes through September. Every Friday night, they do a polo match in the middle of a cornfield. At halftime, the kids get around the field. An airplane flies over the field and drops bags of candy in parachutes. And the kids go bananas and get the candy. And the dads are also out there running over the kids because nobody's looking down. They're all looking up. And then the airplane comes back around. So that's my favorite thing to do in Westfield. Restaurant wise, we tailgate there. So it's a pretty fun thing to do. You got to take your kids there.
Yeah.
Polo matches.
Every Friday night. Yeah.
That does sound like a Westfield thing.
Yeah. North Westfield, or like the rural part.
Borderline Boone. Yeah.
Interesting. I've never heard of that. We're gonna have to go. What's one habit that changed your life?
Oh, good one. Sabbath. Sabbath has changed my life. Shabbat. Every Friday night we do Sabbath and turn off our phones. Don't talk about work. Don't think about work. No TV. We're just with our kids and with our family. We do a big dinner. Tyler's been, and we have a family over, and we celebrate. The week is done.
Yeah.
The work is done.
That's
so
huge.
It's hard for a lot of people. It's hard in our culture, and people can't quite comprehend how you would stop work for.
So what is
For a Friday night?
Let's dig into this because I know that
Yeah.
you're really passionate about this. What is the best part of doing the Shabbat routine, rhythm, and what's the hardest part?
So the best part is just being with family and having a day set apart.
Yeah.
Like, it is pure joy to be with my wife, to be with my kids, and to have zero interruptions and to not be stressed out at all. Like we just say no to everything. Like, no, we're not going to do it. No, we can't do it.
It's like, how do you get to that, the joy? I was listening to our podcast with Aaron Laster, and you were talking about, I don't know whose episode that you had just watched of some famous person talking about the different versions of themselves. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about the guy that just takes mushrooms and goes and plays pickleball. That's like the happiest version of him.
Serotonin version.
Version.
There's three types of people. There's your dopamine self, which is just like more, got to get work done, like to-do list. There's the serotonin self, which is at peace on a hammock with a book. And then there's like, I don't even remember if it was cortisol or depressed. It was like terrible. Like,
get rid of them. Yeah.
But he was saying how in his early 20s, he was like 90% dopamine. Like, and it was like, that's what America's telling you to do. Get shit done, and how he's like, no, actually serotonin self is where really the true joy is found, is like, everything's going to be okay. Like, you don't have to hurry, rush, right? Just be here now and getting in that. And obviously you're a very spiritual guy. I think that's where you can hear the Lord's voice too, is in those times of like silence and peace.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a reward, right? My wife and I set out this year and we wanted to do something similar on Sundays, have the whole family over. We have a newborn. That hasn't happened. And actually, this is so random. Last week we talked about doing Friday nights because we were like, Sunday's not working. Saturday's too busy. What night can we like just open the doors to any friends and family to come over? And it's happening this Friday. We're just going to do it.
I love doing it with community too.
Yeah.
There's one thing to do it alone with your family, but inviting others into that, you've expressed to me there's something different over a meal, breaking bread, that people open up versus
so the phones like have to go in the basket whenever you walk
Well, we
in.
don't do that. I mean, people, like, yeah. I mean, ideally, people aren't on their phones, but I think people take the cues. Like, we don't use our phones,
Yeah, if you're not on it, then
Yeah, and the reason why we do Friday is and Friday to Saturday night is because going to church on Sunday is not restful at all. It's like going to war with our kids. So that's just the way that it works for us. I mean,
every minute's playing out. We got to get to this.
Especially at American church, you walk in with the rock band and the smoke machine.
Yeah. So Saturday is
Trader's Point.
Shabbat, which means to stop. So stopping everything. And then Sunday for us is a day off. So we don't really, do any work on the weekends.
So, and finish the question for me. What is the hardest part of doing that? What is
The hardest
challenge?
part is, I mean, your fish swimming upstream. So continuing with the rhythm and battling the cultural challenges, like the constant invitations, the things. That's a challenge, but that's just keeping it as a rhythm. But we've been doing it for 5 years. It's absolutely 100% the best thing that we have adopted as a family and shaped our family. Because I don't want my kids to grow up and to not know who I was because I was working all the time. I want them to be, I want everything that we're doing to be a family. Like we're a family on a mission, So what does that mean? How does that look like? Like I don't go off to work on my own. I'm going to bring my kids when I can and include them on everything because we're managing assets, right? We want to be asset managers and they can eventually manage those if they want to later on and have free time in their life, and do ministry hopefully and do other things, but not sell their time to work for somebody else. So that's just my approach, and to become a multi-generational family on mission.
Close the book. I just got the word.
I mean, it's like what I heard was financial freedom. Your wife still has a W-2, still working, but you guys have that freedom, right? I think a lot of people get stuck in the rat race of chasing a cash flow or a freedom number, right? Like there's a way to calculate a freedom number of what debt you have to income ratio. Like I don't remember what the equation is because it's irrelevant because if you set that goal, right? If it's 6 million, liquid is your freedom number. You're going to chase that for your entire life.
Yeah. Well, this was telling. So at our church a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about retirement, and USA Today did this study went through retirement homes, and they asked, how much do you have for retirement and how much do you want ideally? Every single person, from the ones that had 500,000 to the ones that had 10 million, they all wanted more. Mm-hmm. Every single one wanted more. So it's not how much you have at all. It's whether or not you choose to be content. Right? So I'm all about just like being content, I don't try to compare myself to other people, and you're never going to be content if you do.
Right.
It's like just be content here and now.
The world today teaches us to only compare. It's hard to not compare. You open up your phone, comparison all over the place.
Yeah.
Go outside, you look at who's driving what, comparison all over the place.
I do think Sabbath helps with that.
100%.
Does.
Yeah.
It's
Grounding.
It's a very grounding, like everything can be still and you don't have to chase after something. And it teaches you something in that pausing.
Absolutely.
About the deeper things.
And I'll use this clip
really
when I
good.
send it out to my extended family.
We need to make
invite.
this into a medium form.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say this. I know I've said this to you, but it's in our nature to want to produce. It's what we want to do. Like if you look back at the people of Israel, they were slaves in Egypt for 430 years. Their existence was based on what they produced, how many bricks they made as slaves. That was it. If they didn't make enough, what do they do? What did the Egyptian empire do? They take their children, they take their wives, and they do unspeakable things to them. They're not making enough, right? You got to continue to produce. Otherwise, you don't have any value. We live in modern day Egypt. How much can you produce? Right? So what did God do to the people of Israel? He said, don't work one day a week, right? You're going to be totally different. Your life is not about consumption. What you don't complete, I will complete for you. I will bring to completion. And so, it's an act of resistance. Doing the Sabbath. Foundational.
I've heard every successful person I know has some sort of pause within their week. And that's huge. I think Tyler and I often challenge daily, right? And like 5 p.m. shutdown, that is the hardest thing to do. We're never going to hit the acumen. What we will hit is like a specific day and time.
No, absolutely.
And a rhythm.
I do try to have mini Sabbaths, but they're not the same thing as a whole day.
Not
The whole
at all.
day is an act of resistance. I fail at it almost every week because I will turn in household things into productivity, which I can feel in my bones is like giving into the resistance or not fighting, the right battle is like, oh, now how many lawn beds can I mulch today? It's like, you're missing the point of the Sabbath. I fall into that a lot, unfortunately. Productivity is definitely a vice of mine.
Yeah. It's an easy thing to give into.
Sorry, that was a really long answer, but
No, I think it's the most value piece.
Right.
And
Which this
hopefully
was at the
it's-
beginning of the podcast.
I was going to say, so hopefully it's not just Granny watching by now. Hopefully my mom's still here and the rest of the fam. What's an area of life that you're currently focused on growing?
oh, just being present, just being content, being with my kids.
It's not the next commercial building.
No, I don't care about that.
Yeah, I'm not
actually, I do love it. I mean, I love working with my wife. I love all of that. I just don't want to be worried about the next thing. Actually, probably not being worried. That's probably
Not
it.
being worried.
Not being worried. Yeah.
How do you do that?
I think having faith in a God that provides, who promises that He will, and so just standing firm on that promise, which is easier said than done.
I'm curious to both of you, what state or status in a week do you feel like the most at peace? What action, what activity? Like for me, I mean, obviously gym, working out, getting the blood flowing is like huge. Or being with your kid, but like it's hard to find that like that solitude in not being concerned about the next thing or the next to do. I find at least.
Yeah. Probably. I love riding my e-bike. Tyler's been on an e-bike ride with me.
So fun.
And I'd say just being on my bike,
Yeah.
being around, it just forces you to go slow and just to enjoy the moment and to be present and, not rush off to the next thing. So I try to ride my e-bike as much as I possibly can.
We try to have intentional meal times with others. I think when I have felt the most peace, it's been around other people and there's no agenda. So like I would struggle to do this on a work day. It's like relaxing, when it's like, oh, I have 10 to do items. It's really, really hard. But when it's like PM, the laptop's closed, the phone's off, there's nothing to do. Having a family over for dinner, I find a lot of peace. It's very restorative for me, getting into like their stories, and just encouraging them, approaching it from like we're building each other up lens, right? It's like building others up in community, I think is quite restorative. It puts me at peace. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. I think it's right here on the Roots podcast for me. It is.
On the Roots Pod at home.
Right.
On the Roots Pod.
Yeah. Just getting to have conversations with great people like you.
We always end the best part of our, for those still with us, the best part is the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
We always get into the best. These little tidbits of every guest have been like revelatory
Yeah.
at the end.
The midterm rentals are fun, but knowing your life is the best part. Knowing the nooks and the crannies. Call back to the to the course. There is about 1,000,000,001 different ways to get lending on a property. Let's get into the nuts and crannies of not nuts.
We gotta include the nuts and crannies. I almost fell down.
Oh goodness.
I was like, nuts and bolts, nooks and crannies. I think it's nooks and crannies. Maybe let's not say nooks and crannies.
All right, cool. Anyways. Oh goodness.
That's awesome. Yeah, this has been another episode of the Roots Podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow if you're on Spotify. Where can people find you, Guy?
Can't find me online.
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
That's it.
You can
come to
call
a
me.
Roots masterclass
Yeah.
and you might bump into Guy.
You can text me and have a coffee with you, but
Yeah. Third
I'm
time.
not online. Yeah,
Yes.
through Tyler.
That's great. All right, guys. Cheers. Into the next one.
Peace.